joining us this evening. I'm Rachel Mullins, President and CEO of the Putnam Museum and Science Center. The Putnam features a wide array of programs and exhibits that celebrate history, culture, and the sciences. On occasion, we have a remarkable offering that features all three. Our newest exhibit, Liberated Voices, Change Lives, is one of these. If you haven't had a chance to visit our exhibit yet, I'm pleased to let you know we've actually extended the run. It will be open through November 4th. So we're extending it through Election Day. We were in the unlucky position of having to close within 2 weeks of the exhibit opening. So we've extended that so that more of our community can enjoy that. Made possible with support of Humanities Iowa and the National Endowment for Humanities, Royal Neighbors of America, Scott County Regional Authority, and Maggie Penceman, the exhibit actually began as a brainchild of one of tonight's featured speakers, Maggie Tensman, who actually, in anticipation of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, suggested that we plan an exhibit to celebrate this momentous milestone for women. The idea took root, and a committee of local historians, humanities scholars, artists, and our very important local librarians all got together to explore the theme of how changes in technology really laid a foundation for the suffrage movement, and exploring kind of the shift in culture and the change that these technologies brought in the lives of women at the turn of the 20th century. Through this process, we learned a lot about our incredible community and the impact of local women and men, both for and against suffrage at the time, including learning more about the role that tonight's sponsor, Royal Neighbors of America, played in the suffrage movement nationwide. Royal Neighbors is actually celebrating their own 125th anniversary this year. And they joined us in exhibit planning, contributing artifacts and wonderful stories from the leadership in the suffrage movement across the country. And tonight's opportunity really was made possible because of them. So thank you to Royal Neighbors of America for your partnership and support. We thank each of you who are also tuned in this evening to hear from these amazing speakers. And I want to give a special thank you also to the River Music Experience and Underground Economy for sponsoring our performing artists tonight. Tonight, you'll hear from several of our community leaders and two performers. We've kind of challenged them all with the theme of hard won and still not done. There is still so much more work to be done to really bring the vision of women's equality to fruition in our country. We'll have time at the end of tonight's panel for you all to ask questions. So please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom. And just throughout the presentation tonight, just send us your questions, and then at the end, we'll get to as many of those as we have time for. We do want to keep you on schedule, but we will be posing those questions at the end. I want to start by highlighting Myrtle Dade. The Liberated Voices Change Lives exhibit featured the men and women of the time in 9 charming portrayals that are video portrayals of notable local citizens, and one of these was Myrtle E. Dade. Myrtle Dade served as a Supreme Recorder for Royal Neighbors of America in Rock Island, Illinois. Royal Neighbors was founded in 1895 by 9 strong women as one of the first insurers in the United States to recognize a woman's worth, protecting her life with insurance just as the same as men. Today, Royal Neighbors is a successful business dedicated to empowering women and local communities through volunteerism. Around the turn of the century, Myrtle Dade saw women as more than property. She felt women's lives were worth protecting, especially for children and families. At the age of 18, when many of her friends were getting married and setting up housekeeping, she was employed at the Modern Woodmen Fraternal Benefit Organization before she even graduated from high school. Soon after, she was asked to work with some of the wives, actually, of the men of Modern Woodmen, some of the executives of Modern Woodmen. And some of these wives wanted to establish their own Royal Neighbors as sort of a fraternal benefit society specifically for women. Now with more than 200, now that we've grown, but at the time in 1910, there were more than 200,000 women. And Myrtle Dade actually managed a team of about 30 women in the beneficiary department and was a proponent for the right of women to vote. She believed there was no reason why women needed to live second class, I love this, second class lives with low pay, no say, and little support. The Royal Neighbors motto said, better a neighbor who's near than a brother who's far. Women need friends, the support of her community, and an organization like Royal Neighbors that understands her stresses in the ever-changing world. Myrtle Dade and Royal Neighbors have stood together to help all people with charitable and disaster relief funds, which in turn supported neighbors in times of challenge and crisis. Our first speaker's vision of leading an organization that empowers women to improve their lives, families, and communities follows in the trailblazing footsteps of Myrtle Dade. I'm pleased to introduce Royal Neighbors President CEO Cynthia Tidwell. Since taking the helm at Royal Neighbors in 2005, Cynthia has enhanced its portfolio of products, strengthened its sales capability, and it's resulted in record-setting life insurance sales and increase of member benefit utilization by more than 400%. She also maintained an A-, which is an excellent rating from the AM Best Rating System in recognition of her keen business acumen and her leadership abilities. Cynthia won the prestigious Stevie Award as a Turnaround Executive of the Year in 2009 American Business Awards. She's named a Professional Woman of the Year in insurance by the National Association of Professional Women. It's a list. She was the Athena Business Women's Award winner in 2010 for excellence in her profession and the significant difference that she makes in the community. And she was also recognized as the 2012 Small Business Leader by Quad Cities Chamber, and in 2017, Elite Woman in Insurance by Insurance Business America. So thank you so much for joining us, Cynthia. I'm very pleased to introduce Royal Neighbors President and CEO, Cynthia Tidwell.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. It's so great to be here. Royal Neighbors is thrilled to sponsor this timely and inspiring event, and I'm honored to be here to kick the event off. Let me start by wishing you all a prosperous Women's Equality Day. It is fitting that we just celebrated the 100th anniversary of a woman's right to vote. But as we celebrate here, we need to be mindful of the need to continue to promote the expansion of gender equality. As the saying goes, we've come a long way, baby, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Now, while we don't think of it every day, women in many other parts of the world have significantly fewer freedoms than we do here in the United States. It ranges from women not having the right to vote, own property, the opportunity to pursue an education or a career, or even the chance to free themselves from poverty. We are blessed as American women that all of these privileges and rights are available to us. However, even in our own corner of the world, there is still much work to do. Over the course of my career and on my path to becoming a business leader, I've seen more opportunities in the workplace, but the pace has been slow. Today in the United States, the majority of those with college degrees, almost 60%, are women. Yet we still only go into the workforce with about 50% of the professional level jobs. Women are dominating the pipeline at the start, but then we drop off at a higher rate for a variety of reasons beyond my comments here today. In a recent study by Korn Ferry, it showed that today women hold only 6% of CEO positions. Now, we've made progress in other C-suite jobs, about 25%, but it's heavily weighted to marketing, human resources, versus CFOs, technology leaders, or chief operating officers. And those three roles are the ones that usually lead to the CEO's office. So progress has been achieved, but at this rate of change, it's going to take decades to get to true equality at all these critical positions. Now, in the last 3 decades, the narrowing of the gender gap has actually decelerated, and a percentage of women in management is actually starting to stagnate. The percentage of women in the top management positions that I just mentioned, and those on corporate boards, is also starting to stall once again. So, while it's important to celebrate how far we've come, it's just as important to maintain focus on the work that is ahead of us. For women in the workplace today, challenges do continue. There are 2 specific challenges that I see almost every day. The first one is bias. Whether it's unconscious or conscious, it is alive and well in American business. And the second is confidence. Many studies show that women have been culturally conditioned to be agreeable. Don't rock the boat, keep the peace, and we don't want to step out until we feel we're perfect. Well, no one's perfect. Trust me, men are not perfect. We are just as smart, driven, and determined to drive the success of our organizations. My advice to you is don't be afraid to know your worth, and then own your worth. There are multiple studies that have been conducted that show over and over companies employing women in large numbers outperform their competitors on every measure of profitability. Our value has never been more clear. We need to embrace our potential, continue to push for equal seats at the table. We need equality in leadership positions, whether it's in business, politics, education, across the board. Don't wait to be perfect. Make a difference now. Learn how your field or industry makes money. Learn how it grows, no matter what your underlying area of expertise is. Take action and take risks. But most importantly, let's remember to support each other along the way. The suffrage movement has shown that when we work together, there is nothing we can't accomplish. Now, our organization, Royal Neighbors, has been proving that since 1895. It is our 125th anniversary. Always an advocate of women's equality and empowerment, we were founded by women who realized that a woman's life had financial worth, and we became one of the first to offer life insurance to women. But our founders also realized the impact that could be made by banding together to provide grassroots volunteerism. And we've lifted up individuals, families, and entire communities along the way. And Royal Neighbors was also a leader in the fight for our right to vote 100 years ago. Today, we remain women-led in an industry that is still male-dominated. We provide professional and volunteer leadership opportunities for women. So I encourage us all to press on, just as we have at Royal Neighbors. So let me close by again wishing us all a prosperous and happy Women's Equality Day. Now, it's been an honor for me to be here and share just a little bit with you. I look forward to benefiting from the inspiration and knowledge yet to come in tonight's program. Each of us has a valuable perspective, and like those who came before us and paved the way for progress, I challenge each of you to make sure your voice is heard. Know your worth. Our future is what we make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. That's tremendous. What an inspiration and what great advice for young women coming up today. Thank you so much, and thank you for your support of the exhibit and tonight's event. Our next speaker has committed herself to and her career to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. Dr. Monica Smith is the inaugural Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. Her leadership requires development and implementation of diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies and monitoring of the institution's efforts towards achieving these goals. Dr. Smith created the college's first diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. Under her leadership, Augustana received in 2019 Higher Education Excellence in Diversity, the HEED Award from Insight into Diversity magazine. Augustana has also been twice recognized by Minority Access Incorporated as an institution committed to diversity. Dr. Smith is an administrator, educator, and practitioner who engages the whole college and community in her work, and we know her well as engaging the entire Quad Cities community in that work as well. In addition to her work at Augustana, she represents the college as a member of the board of directors for the Putnam Museum, and Monica and I have had wonderful conversations, and she's actually inspired us to really examine our own telling of history and dig in on our local history exhibits for preparing people. So it's exciting, and I think of Monica as one of those women that just inspires and and brings new ideas, challenges us to think differently. She also serves United Way as the African American Leadership Steering Committee, Quad Cities Chamber of Commerce 2030 Regional Action Plan Diversity and Inclusion Committee, as well as additional roles in our community. And I'm very excited to be introducing Monica Smith as a friend of the Putnam and a tremendous leader in our community. Dr. Monica Smith.
Great, thank you so much, Rachel. I think in hearing my bio, you know that I'm going to talk about diversity, right? Women as a collective, right? We are members of a diverse population, right? Women have had to advocate for the same kinds of rights and entitlements that men have had since the founding of this nation. And so what I want to do is talk a little bit about the right to vote, right? 2020 is hailed as the centennial of the women's right to vote. I want to talk a little bit about that in terms of the history and then kind of bring us to where we are now. This is an election year, you know, in terms of the federal government. And so just want to talk a little bit about that, remind us where we came from and encourage us to continue to be empowered to impact change. So as I said, 2020 is hailed as the centennial of the women's right to vote. The ratification of the 19th Amendment in August 1920 was a significant milestone, of course, in the United States. The 19th Amendment really didn't guarantee women the right to vote. Instead, it made reserving the ballot for men unconstitutional. And that's a really important distinction, and it's more than a technical distinction. Women who went to the polls fall of 1920 were confronted with state-imposed barriers, despite the fact that the federal government said they could vote. Some of these laws were based on age, citizenship, residency, mental competence, and more. Beyond these hurdles, women who look like me, Black women, faced barriers that were specifically associated with race. So in addition to those hurdles, there were literacy tests, poll taxes, and other methods that were used to induce fear into Blacks who dared, right, to continue to who dared to vote, which continued to effectively prevent Black women from voting. So while August 1920 signified for many women the right to exercise the vote, Black women at that time weren't empowered to do so. It wasn't until some 50 years later that Black women won this right. So what happened during that 50-year period? Much of what has happened with women, right, across the board and also in the Black and brown communities, we continued to advocate for similar rights, for equal rights as other groups, other populations had. So there was continued and increased activism for women to make sure that all of us had the right to vote. We wanted to make sure that those state barriers were removed so that we could vote without a hindrance. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was aimed at overcoming the legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevented African Americans from voting. The right to vote should have been granted by the 15th Amendment, which was ratified in 1870. This constitutional amendment prohibited the federal government and each state from denying the citizen the right to vote based on their race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So we have 1870, right, that every citizen has the right to vote, 1920, that women have the right to vote, but Black women were still effectively disenfranchised until 1965, and actually closer to 1970 by the time those state barriers were no longer enforced. 1970, I was born then. Shortly before that, just a little bit further. So equal access to the polls, equity, didn't exist for all women for all that time. And then in 2015, we began to see efforts on a national scale to restrict voting access again. In 2017, at least 99 bills to restrict access to registration and voting had been introduced in 31 of our 52 states. And a full 35 of those bills saw significant legislative action in at least 17 states. Even now, there are efforts to disenfranchise the vote, but the activism continues, and all women are more empowered than ever before. Adult women are nearly 51% of the US population. We are the majority. We must take our vote seriously and not for granted. When I think about the right to vote and I think about women being empowered, I think about the words of Sojourner Truth when she spoke at the Women's Rights Convention in 1851. Sojourner Truth, her real name was Isabella Baumfree, but we know her as Sojourner Truth. As a Black woman, she established herself to do the very same things that men did. She plowed, she planted, she gathered crops, she ate as much as men, she said. In her speech to the women in Akron, Ohio that day in 1851, she said, "If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, that the women in that convention ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again." And I think this speaks volumes, even now in contemporary America, about the obligation of women to set us on the right course. We've seen over the last few years more women who have been voted into state and local government and federal government. Women are thinking about not only themselves, but all of America, right? They're thinking about people who are older and veterans and ourselves, because we know that we're all better together. And so I want to encourage us, right, as we move on, to continue the activism, as Cynthia said, continue to push forward and to think beyond ourselves as women, but to think of the entire universe, to think of all Americans as we continue to be empowered and continue our activism, to be able to set us on a course that makes sure that all of us are equitable, all of us are included, and all of our rights are at least equal. We have similar access. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you so much for your words of empowerment and obligation. And I know that the timing of this and the opportunity with the exhibit also is a great reminder of the power of the vote and our responsibility to be so hard won for us to exercise our right to the vote. But also to consider those roles in elected office. And I know that's the passion of our Maggie Penceman as well in a little bit. But for now, we have a treat from an artist familiar with the Quad Cities. She's a multidisciplinary artist specializing in music, painting, and theater arts. She holds a degree in theater from Western Illinois University and currently lives in Chicago, where she is pursuing her art full time. I want to welcome Gaia Angelou. Gaia, please. I don't think we have sound, Gaia.
Test.
Very good. We've got you, Gaia. Thank you.
Great. Okay. I was just saying thank you for allowing me to join you all in this space. I bring all of my warmth and love from Chicago, but I was just here. I just moved. So today I'm going to be performing one of my favorite poems from the late, great Maya Angelou. She's whom I based my artist name from. So I thought who better than to just, bless you all and myself with this lovely reading of the poem, Phenomenal Woman. Okay, so here we go. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, and the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man, the fellows stand or fall down to their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing of my waist, and the joy of my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, it's the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk very loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need for my care. 'Cause I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Thank you. We appreciate
Yes.
it. Thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate it.
Fabulous. Thank you, Gaia. That's remarkable. And yet another wonderful performance live from the River Music Experience, if you recognize that backdrop. So thank you very much, Gaia. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next guest this evening has served in the Iowa Senate since 2019. Senator Chris Cournoyer serves Scott and Clinton counties in Iowa Senate District 49. She serves on education, state government, transportation, and natural resources and environment, as well as on the economic development budget subcommittee. She has a degree in computer science from the University of Texas and has owned her own website development company for 22 years. She has served as the president of the Pleasant Valley School Board. Chris, I think that's the first time I met you when I was in the Davenport School. And I now know you as in your leadership role with the Quad City Engineering and Science Council and as a member of the Junior League of the Quad Cities. Senator Cournoyer is passionate about strengthening our economy, our schools, and our communities. She has 4 children of her own, 2 at Pleasant Valley Junior High.
Yep.
Twins.
Twins, yes.
Twins. And 2 in college, which I can't imagine for you, Chris. So welcome so much, Senator Chris Cournoyer. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you, Rachel. It's an honor to be here and help celebrate this wonderful occasion. You know, I can't think of any better way to honor the courageous women that came before us than to come together in all of our unique backgrounds and differences and show and just talk about how together we can do so much more. And the words that have come before me that Cynthia shared just really resonated with me. You know, we've come so far, but you know, there is still work to do. So, you know, when I was getting my degree, I grew up in the 80s. I was a child of the 80s when technology was coming online, and no one had really heard the term STEM before. But you know, it was something that I got involved in because it was something that my father and I shared. So we worked on that together, and I went to the University of Texas and got my degree in computer science. And you know, there weren't many girls or women in the program at the time, but, you know, we banded together and we supported each other. And, you know, it wasn't that we weren't competent or able to do it. There just weren't many girls. And I give a lot of credit to the female professors, the male professors that mentored us and were real allies and encouragement to us. But, you know, it wasn't that we weren't competent, but we did have to work a little bit harder to prove ourselves to our male counterparts. And so, you know, that was something that, you know, I think made me better overall in the end, is that I did have to work harder to prove myself. And, you know, I had parents at home that said I could do anything a boy could do, and they were absolutely right about that. So, you know, I had role models such as, you know, Sally Ride, the first woman in space. Carly Fiorina really broke the technology glass ceiling when she became the CEO of Hewlett Packard. And, you know, there weren't many role models, but it didn't take a lot. You know, sometimes it only takes 1 or 2 people that can inspire you. When you see someone that looks like you in a position that interests you, sometimes that's all it takes. So, you know, STEM, just in terms of getting more women and girls encouraged in STEM, we've got the Iowa Governor STEM Council has really done a lot to start kids early, boys and girls, in figuring out what STEM is all about: science, technology, engineering, and math. It's in everything that we do, and really encouraging those skills and what it can do for you. It can really open so many doors, and, you know, it doesn't take a lot of money to invest. There's so many great opportunities at the Putnam Museum. As you know, we've done robotics competitions and bridge building competitions and all your hands-on exhibits there. So it really is open to anyone who just has any kind of interest in it. And I think, you know, when you're designing products and you're developing technology and innovation, it really helps that your developers have a background, have a variety of experiences and backgrounds to bring together the best ideas and the best solutions to the toughest problems. And I think, you know, we as women will have equal influence when we're doing our part to drive innovation in the top companies and research in the top institutions. So personally, as a woman in STEM, I've become a small business owner. It's allowed me to have my own business, be available for my children, be involved in my community. And now, you know, here I am in the Iowa State Senate, you know, running STEM related bills. So anything that has to do with technology or engineering, they just give it to me. So I've developed that reputation, and you know, it's my honor to do so. But I think you know, what I say to girls and anyone interested in going into STEM related fields, it's not always going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And I think the wider we make that path, I think we owe it to the women that came before us to continue to widen the path, to encourage, to model, to mentor the next generation of innovators, and be available to support each other every day. And, you know, we can sometimes as women be our worst enemies, but we need to just constantly try to find that common ground. Where can we come together? Because as the speakers that have come before me have said, together we do so much more, and we just need to continue to be lifelong learners, be supportive of each other, and don't forget to thank those male allies that we have that are helping us along the way as well. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for everything that you do at the Putnam Museum.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for that wonderful reminder, the power of inspiration and representation for that, the next generation of innovation. And we're really excited to host and partner so closely with the Engineering Science Council, and it's been a blast. It's an honor, but it's also a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of dancing.
Yes, a lot of dancing and funny hats. There seems to be a funny hat theme.
Exactly.
So that's fun. Well, our next speaker of the evening is not shy about her passion for advancing women in our community and how women can play a greater role by serving in elected office. Maggie Tensman served as a senator for District 41 for 18 years and holds an honorary Doctor of Public Service degree from St. Ambrose. She specialized in advocating for early childhood education development, which is how I first came to know Maggie and her work in the Senate, advocating for Iowa's youth. She's also lobbied heavily for health human service issues, promoting public services, as well as addressing the challenging crisis really in human trafficking. Has been a huge platform for Maggie as well. But she also has spent a lot of time talking about and promoting the role of women in elected office. Maggie has many notable awards, including as Quad Cities Woman of the Year. It's my distinct honor to introduce Maggie Penceman.
Well, thank you very, very much, Rachel. I'm just amazed to be part of this wonderful panel with all you great, wonderful women who I would like to see all run for office now. But let me just talk a little bit about my background and what I'm trying to do with getting more women involved with political careers. I had the opportunity to serve in the Iowa legislature for 18 years. And during that time, I realized that women made up only 24% of the Iowa legislature. Even Illinois was better than Iowa, even though there were 53% of the voters in Iowa are female. Furthermore, during my time as a senator, I found that no matter which party women were in, they often would cross party lines to solve a problem. In fact, they were more likely to do this than men because they were such strong problem solvers, and solving the problem was the main thing to do. Consequently, after leaving the legislature, I initiated a program called 50-50 in 2020 in the year 2010. The mission was to achieve political equity for Iowa women by recruiting, training, and mentoring women. Our hope was by the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, This year, 2020, women would be equally represented in the Iowa state and political arenas. So our goals were 25 women in the Iowa Senate, 50 women in the Iowa House of Representatives, 1 woman governor, 2 women in the US House of Representatives, no female at all ever gone to Washington, D.C. then, 1 woman in the US Senate. So 50-50 in 2020 was a bipartisan organization to promote political gender equity in Iowa. We had 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans, including several prominent former office holders as our board. We also had an 18-member advisory board of both men and women leaders throughout the state. And our principles included believing in civility and respect among political opponents, committing to creating a nonpartisan, issue-neutral movement for electing women to state-level office. We were not a PAC, and the organization did not endorse individual candidates, but our board members were free to endorse candidates of their choice. We also welcomed as partners other organizations whose missions and goals are compatible with ours. We liked Royal Neighbors very, very much. We also encouraged participation of all women, regardless of age, ethnic background, or economic status. We ran 5 programs. First is nudge parties, which nudge means no use delaying gender equity. Women need to be asked to run. So we hold informal social events for women of all ages, held in homes or other venues throughout the year. And these events introduce the idea behind 50-50 in 2020 and also encourage women to run, to consider volunteering for local boards, and to support women candidates. The second program I might mention is See Yourself Here tour. This was a behind-the-scenes look at the governmental process, held each spring in Des Moines during the legislative session for women who think that they might want to run for state-level office. The registrants were there for 1.5 days, and they met with legislative leaders, nonpartisan staff, Capitol Press, and the media, as well as other women legislators. It was to demystify the whole idea of being in the legislature. Then we had a program called Step Up. This was just a 4-hour nuts and bolts course targeted at locally elected women like city council or school board and board of supervisors. And we offered this in multiple locations around the state to teach women how to lay the groundwork for a successful campaign. And then our major program was the Blueprint for Winning Academy. This was an intensive 2-day campaign school offered in January of even-numbered years for women who are running for state legislative, statewide, or national office, including Senator Chris Cournoyer was part of our school. This is non-issue, and candidates learned how to organize a campaign, design communication plans, polish speaking skills, raise money effectively, and utilize the media. We said, if you want to talk about issues, you go talk to your party. And we also said to women, you have to, in Iowa, you really need to be a Republican or a Democrat. What are you closer to the Republicans or closer to the Democrats? Independent, you can be an independent thinker, but you can't get elected as an independent. We want you to be elected. So, but that doesn't mean you have to go along with everything of either party. I never did. So the next one was the post-academy session and mentoring. Every BWA or Blueprint for Winning Academy graduate was assigned a campaign mentor that served as a coach and advisor up to election day. After the election, a session was held with those elected on how to be an effective new leader with the current former elected officials. But for those who weren't elected, we still had a session held for Leadership for Success to examine growth within leadership skills so that you could run again. We are particularly pleased with what we have accomplished. And it is just not us, but all of us in Iowa. We have elected our first female US Senator. We did elect our first female governor. We did elect our first 2 female US representatives, and we only have 4, so we got 50%. And we elected a record number of women to the House, to the Iowa Senate and Iowa House. We now have 30%, 22% in the Senate and 34% in the House, Iowa House. Also, we trained hundreds of women to run for office at all levels of government and provided a long-lasting network of supporters and mentors for women seeking public office. However, we did not make our goal of 50% in Iowa as House and 50% in the Senate. In fact, somebody said, well, why did you think you could do that in 10 years? I thought that was enough. Well, it wasn't. But so our board doesn't actually exist now, but some of our members, I'm one of them, serve in the 50-50 and 2020 Transition Committee, which we plan to work with the 3 state universities, our private universities and colleges, of which we have over 30 in Iowa, plus the community colleges, in setting up chapters for women who might run for election, so that young women will consider the possibility of running for elected office after college graduation. As we pointed out, you women, you don't have children in your 20s anymore. So, and you're working for businesses. So tell your CEO that instead of hiring a lobbyist, if you're in the legislature, you can affect change for particular regulations that government often does on business. It's better to be at the table than outside in the hall. Finally, by working together, we women can obtain political equality. We can improve Iowa's business climate, and I think Illinois too. I'm very Quad City oriented, actually. I grew up in Moline, but I've lived in Iowa all my adult life. We have to have a more responsive government and definitely pay attention to issues that are so critical to all Iowa families and children. We cannot give up. And all of us here on this panel won't give up. We've got to make it possible that more women can be involved. And I'm not anti-man. I'm just saying to my fellow legislators, I'm not even trying to be the majority. Do you remember what democracy is about? It's about being the majority. I'm trying to be equal with you guys. Can't we be equal? Why do we have to be down there? We want to be equal. So let's try to do that and continue.
Thank you so much, Maggie. All right, is everyone feeling nudged right now? Thank you so much, Maggie. Thank you for your tremendous leadership for so many years and your continued service to the community. And thank you for inspiring our Liberated Voices Change Lives exhibit. So we're thrilled to have you involved with tonight's panel as well. I also want to thank River Music Experience. We do have a final performer, Charlotte Boyer, who has a background similar. I actually have kind of an arts background myself, and I'm such a passion for our area's youth. And so I'm really excited to introduce Charlotte. Charlotte's 17 years old from Rock Island, Illinois. She studies guitar, she's in choir and chamber singers at Rock Island High School. And she's participated in music education program with River Music Experience since she was 12 years old. And since that time, she has performed at the Mississippi Valley Blues Festival 3 years in a row. She's been an opening act for QC native Lizzie, if you all know Lizzie. And then most recently, Charlotte actually composed an original song for United Way Amplify, and I was thrilled to get to see her perform live at the recent United Way Amplify event. And she is recorded on their Amplify Quad City soundtrack as well. So please join me in welcoming Charlotte Boyer with our final musical performance. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a little song I wrote. It's called Warriors. And when I wrote it, I really wanted it to be about unity and beauty among women. I'm the girl listening to feel embraced, feeling of a place of belonging. Behind the makeup is a girl with natural beauty. She don't need to cover up her scars. Every girl should know that they are beautiful in and out of the surface. Gotta be strong, strong like you are, be brave, brave like you are, be fierce. We are warriors. We are warriors. Behind the girl is the strength of a lion, powerhouse, she can move through fire. Beyond the appearances is a personality filled with high hopes and dreams. Her reflection is a mirror of the strength. She's stronger than she knows. Every girl should know that they wear a crown, 'cause they are queens and their own rulers. Gotta be strong, strong like you are, be brave, brave like you are, be fierce. We are warriors. Gotta be strong, strong like you are, be brave, brave like you are, be fierce. We are warriors. Break through the shell, throw it away, and reveal your true self. Break through the shell, throw it away, and reveal your true self. Break through the shell, throw it away, and reveal your true self. Break through the shell, and throw it away, and reveal your true self. Gotta be strong, strong like you are, be brave, brave like you are, be fierce. We are warriors. Gotta be strong, oh, gotta be brave, be fierce. We are warriors. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. I knew I wasn't going to get through tonight. Thank you so much, Charlotte. What an inspiration. Truly, truly remarkable. And thank you to River Music Experience for sponsoring tonight's performers. I see Monica too. We do have one final highlight this evening for Dr. Mabel Palmer. And Palmer is a name that we all know, but you may not know the story of Mabel. She's another remarkable woman that's celebrated in the Liberated Voices Changed Lives exhibit on display at the Putnam through November 4th. Dr. Mabel Heath Palmer. She was the first lady of chiropractic and an instructor of anatomy at Palmer School of Chiropractic here in Davenport. She attended Augustana College, and while she was a student, Mabel met Bartlett Joshua, B.J. Palmer, of the Palmer School of Chiropractic and Infirmary. They were married in 1904 and had a son, David, in 1906. As one of the first women to graduate with a doctor of chiropractic, as well as a working wife and mother, her life was very busy. She knew that other women scholars at the Palmer Chiropractic School were following in her footsteps. She believed that a woman could do anything a man can do, but women needed to be given a chance to try. At Palmer Chiropractic, women scholars were working beside men almost from the beginning. For that matter, she would ask, why are women prevented from voting or sitting on juries? Are they not citizens of this country? She felt so strongly about it. The photo is up now. She felt so strongly about it that she had an equal rights and a votes for women painted on the sides of what she referred to as the exceedingly tall smokestacks on Palmer's campus, noting, since this landmark is so tall, perhaps it will inspire all Davenport women. Mabel Palmer demonstrated what she felt a woman could be: intelligent, capable, a strong leader, an inspiration to men and women alike, but never at the sacrifice of her legendary kindness and caring. I know she still serves as inspiration to another of our exhibit sponsors, Vicki Palmer Kruder, Mabel's granddaughter, who is on with us this evening. So thank you, Vicki, and thank you for being with us tonight. Remarkable women, one and all. Thank you to all of our speakers and performers this evening, and thank you to all of you for attending our program. We do want to take just a couple of minutes. We have a little bit of time to open it up for questions in our Q&A. So use the Q&A box, and we'll have just a brief dialogue here. And we do have a quick poll for you at the end of our event as well. So this is a fun one. I actually have a question for our female performers tonight. A question for Gaia. We've got a question from a senior in high school. Her goal is to become an animator, and she's looking for advice for women going into an art-centric career. And I would open that up really to all of our panelists, because I think that career education, career paths, and that idea of pipeline and the ability to have opportunities at a young age really opens up a world of opportunities and possibilities for us. So Kaya is back with us. Kaya, how do you respond to that?
Let's see. You said it's a senior in high school?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so what I was doing as a senior in high school, I was reaching out to my arts teachers. I also ran track. So in the like indoor facility of like my high school, it's called the Dungeon. It's where the track athletes practice. But I asked my art teacher if I could just paint on the wall. No one was down there. It wasn't being, obstructed in any way. So I just asked, can I do it during my 7th period class? And he said yes. And so I would just encourage any artist who's just interested in getting out there, ask anybody who has a wall, ask anybody who has an event going on and you want to like draw people, draw caricatures or what have you. If anything, just find any opportunity to go out and use your gift to either help bring people in or, you go to festivals and do this type of thing. I sat down and just drew portraits of couples for like 3 hours and made money or whatever, but I would have done that for free. So ultimately I would just encourage any artist who's interested in just starting, get out there, go anywhere and ask anybody, hey, can I draw you today? Don't be weird about it, but by all means, yeah, just step out there and just try anything.
That's great. That's great. Cynthia, does that resonate with you, the power of volunteerism?
Just a second, I'm muted here.
Now you're muted. Now you're unmuted. Yeah.
I know. For young girls, so there's a couple of things. It's great to plan, right? I'm a planner. If you plan, it might happen. If you don't plan, it'll never happen. But I kind of look at planning like a TV screen. Sometimes we get so focused on that screen that we don't see the rest of the opportunity that is outside of that screen. So while we're plugging forward and we think we know what we want to do and we're charging forward, just be open to other opportunities that sometimes don't look as promising as they wind up to be. Because there's a lot outside of that TV screen that can challenge us and point us actually into directions we never thought we might go.
Great. What about our other panelists? Advice to young women as they're heading into the careers. Chris.
Well,
I don't.
oh, go ahead, Monica.
No, Senator, please go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say an example. When I was on the school board, something that I found to be really inspiring was the partnerships, unlikely partnerships. You know, there was nothing more inspiring than when the art students would go down to the Industrial Tech Center or the STEM lab and start collaborating with the welding students and with the wood students and really seeing what they can create together. So I would say don't hesitate to reach out and partner with people that you might not normally think would work together, because some of the most interesting and inspired work comes when you reach out to unlikely sources. So, and then I would also say, don't be afraid to fail. If you try something and it doesn't work out, you're young, you've got a lot of energy and opportunities in front of you. And every time you fail or put yourself out into outside of your comfort zone, you grow as an individual. So, and you never know what might happen. Like Cynthia said, you put yourself out there, go out of your comfort zone, and keep yourself open to new opportunities, and great things will happen.
Right. Dr. Smith.
Sure. So I concur with what Cynthia and the senator has said. Just for me, it's a word of encouragement for the person who asked the question and all women. There is a saying, and it goes, your gift will make room for you. And each of us has capabilities and giftedness. We might not know what it is. Sometimes we have to grow into them. But I believe that the universe makes space for us. And so it's important for us to take advantage of all the connections that might be available to us, and just trust that there is space, there is room in this universe for you to be able to do those things that you have been purposely created to do. So your gift will make room for you.
That's great. Super. Maggie, you have some thoughts?
Rachel, just real quickly, I agree with all of the speakers who just, and particularly Cynthia was saying, don't narrow your perspective. I was a social worker working with, helping with food and clothing and working for United Way, and was, when I was interested in politics, just helping other people, but I wasn't interested myself. But I kept referring people to the county. The county didn't ever help anybody. And I said, well, how come the county's not doing anything? Well, the county is supposed to be helping, so is United Way. The private and public sector should be doing things together. Who's this guy's boss who is called Overseer of the Poor? How about that name? And they said, oh, the Board of Supervisors. I said, who are they? Oh, all those people, I never know who they are. They're on the ballot. It's probably that level of government you need to get rid of. Now, that's what you think when you don't know anything. And so I went to their meeting one time and to find out, well, what are they doing with helping people who are can't make it totally on their own right now? And they thought I was the press. And I said, no, I'm not the press. I'm just here to find out what you do. You want to know what we do? I went, right. Well, from that job and finding out and knowing that I knew the private sector, what they were doing, the public sector was doing nothing, I thought, well, maybe I should run for the Board of Supervisors. And as one of my male friends said, what, you? Not, oh, you'd be terrific. It was, well, you have 2 liabilities. And I went, oh, good, only 2. What are they? And he said, first of all, you're a woman. We have never elected a woman since our beginning in 1857 or whatever it is. And he said, second of all, you're a social worker. Who would trust you with property taxes? You would spend the county blind. I said, you know, I believe in helping people help themselves within a budget, and you don't go over the budget. Oh, well, nobody believes that. So, I mean, I was never thinking of running for the Board of Supervisors until that kind of job. So yeah, keep your mind open.
Possibilities will open to you. Yes. Well, thank you again to all of tonight's speakers. I want to take just a couple of minutes to give a special thank you to Royal Neighbors for their support of the exhibit and tonight's event, and to River Music Experience and Underground Economy for our tremendous performers this evening. What a great source of inspiration for us. And I want you to remember to come see Liberated Voices Changed Lives, which has been extended through November 4th, through Election Day. So I'll pick up the theme here tonight. Vote on November 3rd, and then come to the Putnam and see us and see the new exhibit before it closes on November 4th. Thank you all, and good night.